The
Honourable Member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And it gives me pleasure to rise today and speak in this debate. I had the opportunity to serve in the forces from 2002 to 2006. After that, I chose to serve my country in another way by becoming a member of Parliament. But I will always remember what I did in the past. I will remember the friends that I made. And I will remember all the exchanges we had, the problems we experienced on a daily basis together. And even though I'm a member of Parliament now, I continue to be close to these people because that experience that we had together within the armed forces is difficult to communicate to other people who have not had that experience. But I think that when you're patient enough and when you want to understand the reality of veterans, you can understand and you can find concrete measures that will help them. One of the things I'd like to say is this. You know, sometimes there are small symbols, simple symbols in the armed forces. And it's easy to forget what they actually symbolize. For example, there's one symbol that people associate with the military, these dog tags. But there aren't very many people who understand what lies behind them. So on these dog tags, there's your name and a number so that you can be identified. They're made out of metal, they're engraved, because you may die during an explosion or in other circumstances that would destroy a plastic dog tag. So that's why they're engraved in metal. And on these small tags, there's also your religion, because things can happen very quickly. And one may have to provide a religious service to the person who is dying and who is not able to express their beliefs. And then there's your blood type. If, for example, you need an emergency blood transfusion, there may not be time to find out what your blood type is. So it's on the tag as well. Do you know many people, Mr. Speaker, many professions where you wear a metal dog tag in case you die quickly in an explosion and it won't be possible to identify you if you have plastic on you? And you know you have to have your blood type on that tag because you may have an accident that's so serious you'll need an emergency blood transfusion? And as well that your religion will be on that tag so that if one day you're facing death, then you can be served as well as possible. Do you know very many professions that require that? I don't know any other, actually. I don't know any other where people are so exposed to danger and they expose themselves voluntarily. That danger goes above and beyond losing your life. That danger also can be losing a part of yourself. When you go out into the battlefield, you know that you will not come back the person you were before you went out there. What you experience and what you learn will change you for the rest of your life. There are people who are fully aware of the fact that when they serve in the forces, their mental health will also be affected. And these people still know that someone has to do that job. Someone has to be able to do that job. Not everyone can. But we need those people. We need those people who can defend themselves and others. If those people hadn't fought, well, then we wouldn't have the society that we have today. If no one had fought, we wouldn't have the rights that we enjoy today. We wouldn't be protected in the same way. We wouldn't be able to raise our children in the same way. And perhaps some of us wouldn't even have been born. So when you think of all that, when you think of how changed and affected people will be by serving in the military, when you understand that, you have no option but to acknowledge their value to society. And when I look at what has happened to a promise, well, the Prime Minister made a very clear promise. He said that the military would no longer have to fight their own government. It's not someone else who said it instead of him. It is the Prime Minister who said that during his election campaign. He said it. And now a veteran asks the question, and he's told that he's asking more than they can give. I think that's unacceptable as an answer, when we know that the veterans gave more than they thought they could give. Many of them didn't think that they would be able to do certain things, but they succeeded in doing it. They did it for the country. They did it for freedom. They did more than they thought they were able to do. And the government now is refusing to give them back what I think is simply what they deserve. I've seen veterans go around with piles of papers, their documents, their files, their correspondence. Mr. Speaker, do you think it's normal that a veteran get to the point where they have 5 2-inch thick binders of records and fights simply to be compensated fairly? You know, they've learned to fight, yes. But there are many people who have been out of the military for 25 years. But you know what? I think that some of these people would still be perfectly capable of doing many of the things they had learned to do in the past. But now they're made to do things they were never trained for. They're being told that they have to fight the government. They're told that they'll have to go crazy with the number of documents that they're going to have to use in simply standing up for their rights. They have to wait forever. They have to wait for months and months and months before they even know what the answer is. They're made to wait in uncertain circumstances, and it's very important to understand this. These people were trained. They were trained to be able to actually move quickly regardless of what the circumstances is, to rethink their plan, to rethink their strategy, and to act quickly. But now they're being put in a situation that lasts for months and months and months simply for an answer. They have months of uncertainty, and during those months, they can't make a plan. They can't make alternative plans. They can't come up with strategies. So simply that wait is unbearable. These are people who are used to acting in the thick of the action. They have to act regardless of what's happened. They have to be able to turn on a dime and get going and find another solution, another strategy. But now they're being given these never-ending wait times. These are ridiculous circumstances. For example, a veteran who has an amputated leg may be asked if he's still injured. I mean, do you know any legs that can people who can grow a second limb? Is it absolutely necessary to ask an amputee whether they're still amputated simply because that veteran hasn't been spoken to for 3 years? Well, these kinds of things happen over and over and over again. It's ridiculous. And that's what has to be stopped. We have to stop this ridiculous paperwork and bureaucracy and restore that human value to the process. So this is about how you treat veterans, and that's not a question only of funds. It's how you act with people. So I see people throwing numbers back and forth, what was invested in which year. But that doesn't deal with how veterans are treated, how you act with them. So when you start stubbornly quoting numbers, does that help improve the situation? When people are losing their homes because they're waiting for their file to be processed? When they have to actually come up with a 1,000-page long file? That's not respectful. So if from the outset that approach were changed, if we were to be able to say from the very outset, how can we help and be proactive and actually shake their hand the way they were done when they went into combat, when they were told you're going into combat, and they were asked how they could be helped. And when these very people said, how can I serve my country? What can I do to help my country? The government's doing exactly the opposite.
When I see files where VAC seems to doubt whether a wound to the back from being in the infantry for 30 years, if it's a real problem, a real health issue, when a person has been having to carry 80 pounds or more of gear on his back besides everything else, has served for 30 years. There's no link there? Is that any way to act with veterans? I think we have to get the debate back to what the real issues are. The PM made a promise, and it's not just a question of numbers. It's a question of one's attitude towards veterans, how they're treated, and how well they are respected. And when this has changed, then we will have truly made